Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 RBC Brooklyn Half training panel. Today's panel is the first of a two-part series, so we are going to go ahead and get started. And hello, obviously, to all of you here in the audience, and also to the folks that are joining our live stream, I believe from our YouTube page for New York Roadrunners. This training video, will be available at a later time. There will be closed captioning available, but just please keep in mind that the closed captions are auto-generated, so there may be a mistake or two in there. So just some logistical information, as we always do before we start. If you do need an assistive listening device and you did not request one, you can actually see my colleagues to my right, and they can help set one up for you. We do have accessible and gender-neutral restrooms, and they are right around the corner behind us to my right. And as I mentioned already, closed captioning will be available on this video, I believe, once the video goes up about 24 hours after it is available on YouTube. And we will be taking questions from the audience towards the later part of tonight's event. So we'll take questions from the audience here and also the live stream. If you have any questions that come up during the session, please feel free to add them to the chat, and Coach Steve is monitoring that chat, so we'll try to get some questions from folks online as well. My name is Saman Wakad. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Social Responsibility Specialist for New York Roadrunners. Some of you may have seen me here for other training panels. I'm becoming an expert at asking these questions. So for those folks who might be low vision or blind, either here in the audience, watching the live stream, or watching the recording at a later time, we're just going to provide some very brief physical descriptions. So I am a South Asian woman. I am wearing a light blue headscarf, I think this is a bright blue or like a navy blue fleece with the New Balance and New York Roadrunners logos on the front, and I am wearing glasses as well. So let's move on to introductions for the important folks that are here. That is obviously all of you, but also our panelists. So to my left is Coach Ben Delaney, who is an NYRR coach. Coach Ben is an RRCA certified coach, and you can ask him what that means later. He grew up playing team sports and came to running later in life, inspired by a friend, and he just jumped into the deep end of the running pool. Quickly, he saw the power of running with groups and how the combination of speed work, long runs, and easy runs creates an efficient running program and roadmap for success. He took that information and knowledge and started to work with other runners. And he says the best word to describe the feeling of seeing runners achieving their success is magical. He will be pacing the 2-hour group at this year's RBC Brooklyn Half.
Thank you, Simon. How are you doing today?
I might have run here a little bit from the office.
Just breathe. We're here. We're all good. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Delaney. I am a white male with somewhat left of my black hair on top and a scruffy white beard down below. This is navy blue. It's a dark blue. Coach's shirt with a New Balance logo, and I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Coach Ben. And to Coach Ben's left is Atia Brown. Atia is a New Balance trackster, and some of you might have seen Atia here as a panelist before for other events. So Atia is a certified yoga instructor and a sound healing practitioner from New York City. She has a decade of experience in the athletic apparel industry. And as the New York City New Balance field marketing rep, she's deeply involved in the running community, merging her passion for fitness and holistic wellness. Atia's unique expertise bridges the gap between athleticism and well-being, making her a standout figure in her field.
Hi, guys. Again, my name is Atia. I am an African-American female. I have on a black New Balance cap, a burgundy New Balance sweatsuit, and black New Balance sneakers.
Thank you, Atia. It looks like we're all relearning our colors today in apparel. So to Atia's left, last but not least, we have Amy Stevens, and we've had Amy here as well before. Amy is a registered dietitian, certified specialist in sports nutrition, eating disorder specialist, and a competitive runner. She has over 20 years of experience working with amateur and high-performing Olympic-level athletes to achieve their sports performance goals using the latest science-backed approaches. Currently, Amy serves as team dietitian for Empire Elite Track Club, a high-level group of athletes focused on making the U.S. Olympic team and NYU track and field team. Amy Amy did not qualify. Update, Amy is running the Boston Marathon on Monday. I had part of an old bio, so Amy will be running the Boston Marathon in a couple of days, and she will also be running the Brooklyn Half, I believe, right?
Yeah, okay. All goes well. Hi, Amy Stevens. I am a white female, and I have brown shoulder-length hair. Wearing a black blazer and a black T-shirt that says Martin Training on it. Martin Physical Therapy, excuse me. That's it.
Awesome, thank you, Amy. So let's go ahead and get started, folks. And as more folks join in, please feel free to move up. So anybody know the date for the half?
The 18th, I think we
They're
just
like,
looked it up.
It is May 18th. Okay,
you.
awesome. And how far out is that? How many weeks? About 5 weeks. Yeah, okay, awesome. I'm glad nobody said 10 weeks. That's a little far off. Okay, so surprisingly, it is about 5 weeks out. And I know folks are getting excited, which is one of the reasons why you're here, either excitement or anxiety. So your training has already started, obviously, but as you may be aware, some of the hardest training is yet to come. So let's go ahead and ask some questions to our panelists. We'll start with Coach Ben. Coach Ben, talk to us about what makes a good training plan, given that we're about 5 weeks out from the race, and how can runners properly train for the race, and what should they be focused on right now?
Yeah, hopefully you've all started training before, right? You've all started training. No one's like, hey, I woke up today and it sounded like a good idea. Hopefully you're not there, but if you are, come talk to me later. We'll set some different expectations for May 18th. No, I mean, a good training plan will work on a multitude of things, most importantly, building your endurance. That's the goal. I mean, long distance running is getting you from the start line to the finish line, but more importantly, your training plan should get you to that start lining healthy. You don't want to be working so hard in your training that you can't even get through that, and you get to the start line and you're not able to even run the race you want to race for. So remember, when you're in your training, if you're working with a coach or running with a group, always keep in mind, goal number one is get to the start line healthy and ready to go. You have full control over that. What happens on race day is what you've done to get yourself there. The race day will unfold. So just keep in mind where you are. Anyone doing any first time half marathoners in the room, put those hands up high, be proud. There we go, there we go.
Sweet.
It'll be your fastest. Don't worry about anything else. You're gonna have a great time out there. But really what you should be focusing on right now is just building that endurance. People think, I've got to run fast to complete this. Not really. You really want to build your endurance. The aerobic engine is gonna propel you to get there. Yes, speed will help, but if you go out too fast, guess what? You're just gonna be walking down Ocean Parkway all the way down to the beach and going, this was not what I hoped for. So one thing I would say for my first timers is really put your eggs in the basket where you can make the most gains. And right now you're making the most gains in those long runs, in those conversationals. If you're running with groups, you may be doing some speed work as well, but really when I'm working with a first time half marathoner, or even a first time 5K or marathoner, I really say you've got to build the base. I look at it like a pyramid. The wider that base, the taller that peak. So really focus in on that if you're a first timer. Anyone who's done it before, maybe you're fine tuning. Maybe, okay, I've got the aerobic capacity. Maybe I'm trying to pick up those speeds. So maybe you're doing some more pace work in your training or doing some speed work here and there. But always focus on, or when I work with runners, I try to focus on where they can make their biggest gains, because ultimately that's what's going to drive them, hopefully, to a successful race day.
Thank you, Coach Ben. So moving on to Atia, as we just saw, there are plenty of first-time runners running this race. I'm sure there's folks online as well watching this. So how can folks find the right gear to train in, and where do they even get started?
Well, first and foremost, I hope that you're all wearing shoes when you're running. There are some people out there that choose not to wear shoes, just saying. But you want to start with making sure that you have the proper fit on your running shoes. You want to make sure that you're wearing sweat-wicking gear. You also want to think about weather-appropriate items. So if it's going to be unpredictable weather, you want to make sure that you're having something like a waterproof shell, or if it's going to be a little windy or a little bit cold, maybe you need to have on a cap. There's so many accessory items that you want to think about leading up to race day. But I also want to say that if you have the time, which is now, play trial and error, right? Try some things out. Okay, this is not really it for me. Let's try something else. You have the 5 weeks. So this is when you really want to explore your options. You want to start by going into your local running store. You can come to the Run Hub. We have a New Balance shop here. And then there is also a couple other options out there. I'm going to not say their name because we're in the New Balance Run Hub. But you have a lot of options. But start getting fitted with the right shoes first.
And for those folks who have not been here before, the Run Hub is right there, up the stairs, right there, for easy access. So we talked about endurance, we talked about finding the right gear and doing it now instead of waiting 3-4 weeks, right? So Amy, something runners struggle with for any long distance race is nutrition. Also,
Yeah.
we do have people ask us like a week out, like what should I be eating, right? So what can runners do now 5 weeks out to prepare for those long, hard miles?
So I'm so glad you guys are all here. You're interested in learning a little bit more, and this is a great resource. We're all great resources. There's a lot of information online. You'll see TikToks, you might see other social media. Don't get overwhelmed by that. Just listen to what we're telling you. But do have your, resources that you rely on. Don't get overwhelmed by too much information. But the first thing I would say, and I think it's really important to start experimenting with what foods work for you. So start practicing what to eat before that long run. And, I can go into some other options. But, I think it's also important to understand how your body works. Your body is like a car where you have to fuel a car in order for it to run. Our bodies work the same way. You can't start a run under-fueled or a little more time, or you're waking up earlier. You could maybe do like 2 hours before and have something a little more substantial, like a bagel with peanut butter would be a little bit of a better option. But you want to get to that start your race fueled. And hydration is another really important thing to consider. The weather right now is kind of cool, but as we know, and in the past, Brooklyn has been very warm, and the start can be very warm, very humid. So we want to just make sure we practice that hydration plan. You have to see what that feels like. So drink fluids. I would say start with 10 to 20 ounces of fluids. Coffee is included in that, or any caffeine or any beverage is included, about an hour before. And sip that. You don't want to get to the start of any run and have to chug water. That's not going to be beneficial to you. That will lead to sloshing, and that will be uncomfortable. So practice this plan. So 1 to 2 hours before, you're going to have some type of carbohydrate with a little protein, and then allow your body to digest that. Brooklyn happens to have a really early start, but we're all kind of having a commute to the start, so we're going to be up. As soon as you wake up, you want to be eating something, and then let your body do the digestion. Don't talk to your friends, don't look at emails. Get that food in and let it digest, and then you can do all the other things you need to do. So start with that. The other really important thing is start experimenting with gels. Many of you have never had these before, and I'll go into this in a little more detail later on, but start experimenting with them. Try a bunch of different ones. See what your friends are using. You could start there and see what that feels like.
So, Amy, just to follow up, for folks who are a little bit new to this, when they're trying to figure out what does or doesn't work for them nutrition-wise, do you recommend they journal, like in a notebook or on their phone, or track it somehow?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So you can keep a notepad, like maybe keep it in your kitchen where you're prepping the food, or keep it somewhere that's easy for you to record. And write down what you've tried and how your body felt. Like, recognize how you're feeling at the start of that run. If you're feeling full or bloated, maybe that goes away after 20 minutes and you feel great and you're energized. So just kind of take a note. Or maybe you get GI issues, or you end up having to stop and go to the bathroom. We need to examine that a little more closely and see what happened. Did you eat that too close to the start? Another thing is if you're training after work, that can be really hard because you're like, when do I eat? I have to run whenever my boss lets me go. I have to answer these emails. When am I supposed to eat? So I would say, on those types of days, I can go through a plan, but have a bigger lunch and then dial it back again, 2 hours from when you plan to start. And that's when you have a snack. Some type of carbohydrate-rich food. Could be a fruit with a little peanut butter, could be crackers, but dial that back 2 hours and that's when you eat. So you don't end up getting to, you finally get out of work and you just had a salad. That's not going to feel great. I've done that. That doesn't feel great.
Thank you for those great tips. So next, let's talk a little bit about spring training and racing, which some of you may know can be a bit tricky for a lot of runners. And for those of you who don't know, runners sometimes take time off during the winter months, and there's a lot of unpredictable weather, which as we've seen in the past couple of years, it can get tricky for runners. So Atiya, we'll start with you this time. How can runners dress for this unpredictability during challenging weather days, such as rainy spring weather, given that we don't really know what the race day weather is going to be like yet, and how can they protect their body from the elements?
First and foremost, layering is going to be your best friend, right? So if you haven't heard that before, just remember from this panel, layering is your friend. Moisture wicking base layer, rule number one, right? So whether that's going to be a tank or short sleeve, depends on what you like to wear. Got to try it out, so trial and error. I definitely want to suggest having a shell that is going to be one that's going to be great for wind and water resistant, and then have another option potentially to have that waterproof. Why have to? Because you have to try and see which one works best, and the water resistant one is likely going to be a little bit more breathable because it's not going to fully take it's going to allow it to breathe, but it's going to allow the water to kind of just roll off versus soak up in there. That waterproof shell is going to be hot. I'm just going to be transparent. So have both options so you see what is best for you. If you're someone that runs a little bit on the chillier side in the morning, maybe that's something that you have. But another thing to think about is it packable? Can you roll it up? Can you tie it around your waist? Will it stay? These are things that you want to keep note of. The second thing is your gear for your shoes. You want to think about if you haven't been running in something that has a little bit more grip on the bottom, that is something to think about. Trail options are great, but again, this is something you have to try out for yourself because you're not going to be running on trail. So just to know, if you're someone who has a run in the rain, get outside in the rain now, please. You don't want to have an experience with the weather a day of race and you're losing it because you're I was not prepared for this. So know that. Are you running in shorts? Have you ran in your leggings? Try your options out. Another thing you want to think of is your hat. Some people like their hats. Some people like visors. Someone might want to wear glasses instead of having all of that. Maybe they don't care if their hair gets wet. Have a scrunchie, ladies. Make sure your hair is tied back. These are things that we don't, in the moment, prepare for. But if you have the time, just little small things now, starting for your training. Have an extra scrunchie on your wrist. Make sure you have a pocket that if you're going to run with your cell phone, is it stable? Is it going to slide out? Think about those options when you're thinking about weather. Things are going to get wet. So please go out and look into some options now. New Balance has some really great options out there. MB Dry is the technology that we have. MB Ice is a technology that's going to be great for being cool and to keep you dry. And then we also have some really good water-resistant and proof shells. So please check out those gears.
Thank you, Atiya. And that was a lot of information that Atiya shared. And the questions I'm going to ask Amy now, it's going to also be a lot of information. And of course, Coach Ben is going to give us a lot of information too. So I just want to point out that this training panel is being recorded. The recording will go up on YouTube. So if any of you want to go back, watch the recording, take notes, please feel free to do that. So Amy, let's move on to you. So let's now talk about the runner's long run, which is key to runners' success in the half marathon. A few things. What should runners take before they head out the door? Is there a difference between the types of gels, bars, some of them that you mentioned, the gels? And can real food be a substitute? And another one, talk to us a little bit about recovery nutrition. It's a lot of questions.
There's a lot. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to look at the question again here so I get it in order. So before you head out the door, if you're going for a long run, and I really define long runs by minutes. So if you're going out for more than 80 or 90 minutes, your body you're going to need to refuel. So this is the time where we're going to fuel up and refuel. Keep that in your mind. Fuel up and refuel. So your body, like we were saying, compared to the car has a big certain size gas tank. And when that goes out, it doesn't run anymore. That is the same for our bodies. And that's called hitting the wall or bonking. So you have enough energy or enough fuel that you can store on you to last about 90 minutes. That also is determined by how fast you're running, the temperature, and some other factors, but around 90 minutes. So if you're going to be out for longer than that, you need to be taking extra gels or extra supplemental nutrition. So before you head out, you're going to fuel up. So that's that 1 to 2 hours beforehand, eating some carbohydrates. You want to have something pretty substantial, like a small bar, like an RX bar. That's not going to be enough if you're going out for a long run. You might want to do an RX bar and toast and maybe one other thing, and maybe a banana. It's going to give you enough fuel so when you are heading into this longer run, it's really helping you in that last bit. The fueling early on and at the beginning is going to really give you that kick for the last 3 miles. So let's talk about gels and how to use these. So there's lots of different products. These are just a few that I pulled up. We're going to pull up the one that is going to be on the course. So it's Science and Sport is the brand that's going to be on the course. And what I think is really great is training with this, because then you don't have to carry these. They're going to be there. Maybe you bring one to put in your pocket, and then they're going to be out there on the course, so you don't have to get any extra. You can even grab 2 when you go by the station. I forget what mile it's at, but it will be available, and it's a really nice luxury if you do train with this. And the difference with the gels are the carbohydrates. That's probably the most important thing that I would look at. The target amount, if you're going to be going out, again, for more than an hour and a half, which maybe many of you are if it's your first time, you want to take a gel around like every 30 minutes or so. I kind of have this really quick saying, 30 every 30. And that's not, you don't have to just start doing that right away, because that's going to get your stomach upset. It takes time to adapt to that. So maybe start with 1 gel every 45 minutes and see how your body feels. And maybe that's all you need. But the key is that you start it early and you don't wait. You don't wait until you're feeling lousy. It's too late. Your body cannot recover. So establish your fueling plan now. And maybe it's like maybe if you're going to do a 2-hour, that's about 2 gels. So plan to try taking 2 gels along with your training and see how your body feels. And if you're like, you know what, I felt pretty good at the end, I don't feel like I need to lay down right away, then that might have been a success. But you're going to keep a journal and you're going to write down like, oh, stomach was a little grumbly, or whatever it was, however you felt. Maybe it was nauseous, maybe whatever. However you felt on that experience, and then you can kind of troubleshoot it from there. But I would say then with hydration, so going back to the you want to have like 10 to 20 ounces of fluids, depending on the weather and depending on your individual self. Everyone is different. That's a starting point. You might need a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on how you feel. You obviously don't want to stop and go to the bathroom on the course. I've done that many times. The lines are really long. So if you want to try to avoid that, then maybe you want to see how little you can take. If the weather is going to be warmer, in the past, if you start at 7 or maybe you're starting at 8, if you're running for 2 hours, you have to look at the temperature over that period of time. Is the sun coming out? Is that going to change your hydration needs? So you want to kind of take all of that into consideration for the duration of your run. Then food. So going to food. So can food be a substitute? I don't recommend it. I think you're better off with using these products. You really want to use products that have like glucose and fructose. It's going to be easily absorbed by your gut, and the osmolality, which is like the concentration of these, is not too much where it's going to cause a GI issue. The risk of having issues with real food is too high. But if you train with it and you don't do well with these gels and there's absolutely no way you can take these, you can do food substitutes. And if you feel great, then that can be a really great option for you. But another thing to consider or to remember is nothing new on race day. If you have never had a banana before during your long run where you're pumping and you're working hard and someone is on the course offering you a banana, don't take it. It seems like a good idea, and if you're like, anything that makes me feel better, I'm gonna go for it, don't, right? We're all shaking we've all done that, actually. I've done it. Yes, right there, Steve has done it too. It does not feel amazing. Practice the food, practice your fueling plan, write it down, and that is your plan. and then continue that plan over and over and then make adjustments.
Awesome. Thank you for that very detailed answer to all the questions, Amy. So moving on to Coach Ben. We've talked about nutrition. We talked a little bit about gear. So I'm going to have you talk to us about getting those training runs in while wearing the right gear, as Atiya talked about. How do folks get the motivation actually to train and get the miles in regardless of what the weather is like?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the fun part about this time of year in the Northeast is we're getting everything. We get a warm day, we get days like today, we're gonna get cold days. Anybody who's run the RBC Brooklyn Half in years past, the last 2 years have been very different weather conditions. 2 years ago, if you were in wave 2, you had a very steamy, humid first part of your race, and then on Ocean Parkway, which is fully exposed, it was just baked city. There was so much sun on us out there. Last year, it was pretty overcast, and there was a torrential downpour if you were in wave 2. So really, when we talk about gear, these long runs and your training are dress rehearsals for race day. Between your gear and your food, everything is kind of what's working and what's not. One thing I like to do with gels is I will actually buy several of them, and I will be at home. If I can eat them at home, it's a good chance I can probably choke it down when I'm running. If I can't get it down when I'm standing there, probably not going to be able to choke it down when I'm trying to run whatever pace I'm trying to run. So really practice that. And the same goes with your gear. Put it on if it's going to be warm, because as a coach, I like to tell people you want to be a little bit cool when you start because you're going to warm up. I mean, you're moving. Naturally, you're going to begin to build sweat. So try to keep yourself a little bit cool. So it's hard this time of year to not overdress. I mean, anybody who's getting ready for a race time of year, you're like, oh, it was 50 yesterday, it's going to be 70 tomorrow. And I mean, some of us who are running Boston, I'm sure you're checking the weather. And
100 times.
It's going to be, as they say, AccuWeather said, great for baseball, warm for a marathon. And I'm like, oh, thank you, AccuWeather. I love those kind of comments. But even like our marathon the last couple of years, we've had unseasonably warm conditions. So it's really trying to lay down the puzzle pieces on what works well. So when you look at the clothing you're going to wear, have options, whether they're shorts, whether they're tights, whether it's a singlet, whether it's a shirt, because you're going to want to find out what's working and what's not, because come May, we've seen it all. I mean, in 2018 when I ran, it was pretty much like this the whole day. And I love this weather, but I still wore a singlet and shorts. I wasn't overdressed because you're going to be moving. You're going to be working hard. You're going to be sweating. And then in terms of these weather, did anyone go out and run this morning? Anybody go out and run this morning? You are brave souls. I love that. I mean, we've had rain. I mean, it's been just, I mean, I think March we had 20 inches of rain in New York City. So you will figure it out. Like, do I want to wear a hat? Am my glasses going to get, I mean, a hat in the rain is your friend. I mean, it's so good to keep all the water off of your face. So as Atiya said, don't be afraid to go outside and run in the rain, because if it comes up on race day, you're that much more prepared. Do I need a thicker sock, a thinner sock, same socks? Do I need more body glide, less body glide? Anyone ever chafed and then gone and shower afterward? That's not a good feeling. It ruins the shower. I'm telling you, it's when you don't want to have that feeling. So really look at the puzzle pieces that you're laying down between both your gear and your nutrition, because it is so important, because you don't want to try something new on race day. I will share my story. I tried an orange slice in my first marathon at mile 21. No, actually, no, it was mile like 15. At mile 21, it came back up. So yeah, I just put it out there because we've all made the mistake and we've all done it before, because in the moment you're like, that looks really good, but I didn't try it. So, I mean, I won't use profanity, but don't F around and find out on race day, folks. Get to your start line, know your race plan, blur out the noise, mute out the noise around you. Someone's saying, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Great, because they trained that. What did you do? What was your motivation to get there? What were all the things that you did? Believe in it, stick to it. And then you'll find out if it works. And then the next training cycle, you can reassess and try to make it, if you want to try again, what's working, what's not. But don't get to the start line and question everything, because that's, then you're already kind of putting yourself in a deficit when you want to have a good time out there.
You do want to have a good time out there, especially for those of you who are running your first race, right? Your best time so far. So
spoiler.
You all are probably now thinking about and visualizing race day, right? Because we've been talking a lot about preparing for race day. So let's talk about race day, May 18th. And Amy, we'll start with you. How can runners get success on their race day nutrition? I know you touched on it a little bit, but what does that look like in terms of when to get breakfast, gels, and recovery nutrition?
So plan ahead. Know what you're going to be having earlier in the week and gather those foods. So I think that's really important. I went to the grocery store today to get all my Boston foods, and you just want to have those foods available. The foods that you're used to, that you have had before, that feel good on your body, especially if you're staying overnight at a friend's house near the start. Like, you want to have those foods with you. Don't show up there and it's all different cuisines. I've done that too, and that is not good. So, be prepared for what works for you. The day before, you're going to be doing a little bit more carbohydrates. Like 3/4 of your plate will be coming from carbohydrates. You don't need to overstuff yourself the day before. Just eat normal foods, just add in more carbs, the same foods that you're eating on a regular basis. So the morning of, you're gonna have your foods laid out, hopefully, or just have some, make sure you have them and put them on your counter. It's gonna be early. You're not gonna be thinking. It's gonna be very hard. So have those laid out. I sometimes will put the time on them, or just know exactly the time that you're going to eat that food. Go by your start time. Start there. Like, if you're starting, I think the 2 waves, 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. I'm guessing most of you might be in the 8 a.m., but walk back 2 hours. That would be a snack. 3 to 4 hours is a meal. I'm giving you that information, but I don't know who's waking up for 3 to 4 hours. Some of you might, but you can have a meal. 3 to 4 hours, your body will have enough time to digest a meal. A meal could be a bagel with peanut butter, a banana, and a Cliff Bar. And you want to get in a good amount of carbohydrates, but not overstuff yourself. So if you're going to go for the meal, 3 to 4 hours beforehand, and you're starting to sip fluids. And then if you need more food, you can do like salted pretzels. I always think that's a great food for about 2 hours out, because you could put it in a baggie and bring it along with you while you're traveling. That in a Cliff Bar. And you could just take pieces of it. A lot of my athletes are so nervous on race day, but you have to eat. So if you don't catch the meal, early on, you do have this other food to just kind of munch on as you're heading to the start line. And then hydration, same thing. You're sipping fluids. And then, so you're establishing your fueling plan. Nothing new on race day. You will see everyone doing like different things, and they might look really interesting. Don't do that. Again, I did that at the start of waiting for New York City Marathon. That doesn't work out well. And, I think it's just about getting your body used to eating these foods, and it won't be the most exciting breakfast you've ever had. It won't, and it's okay, because you'll get a really great breakfast after. This is fuel. So it's just like the car that needs fuel to run. You need to fully stock your body with as much as you can. Overnight, you lose some glycogen, and so you need to restock that. So when you start your race, you're fully stocked. Even if you're nervous or rushing around, make sure you're taking bites of food. It could be smaller bites. Crackers, like just saltines, that's another great food. Just easy foods that you can eat. And I think that's the main thing about, getting to the start line. You want to be fueled and hydrated.
Doesn't have to be exciting food, because saltines is not exciting. But you'll have exciting food after, right? After the race, hopefully. So, Coach Ben, talk to us about the course, especially for those folks who may not be familiar with it. And how should folks approach it? And what can runners do in their training to be successful on race day in regards to the course?
Yeah, the way that, coaches, Steve and I, if you come to the RBC Brooklyn Half, the pre-party, you'll probably come down to get your bib. We'll be doing course strategies. We'll give more information. But we like to describe this course as like a business in the front and a party in the back. Because you have Prospect Park in the first part of the race, so that's where your undulations are going to be, your inclines, your declines, where once you come out of the park at around the 10K to mile 7 mark, you literally have a straight line to Coney Island on Ocean Parkway. It is just pancake flat. Far as the eye can see, you'll play the alphabet game from Avenue A, B, C, D. Z is not the end. Don't want to spoil anything yet. You do have a little bit to go before you get there, before you make your way to surf, onto the boardwalk, and you finish up. But really, because this race does have a bit more undulation in the beginning and much more flat, we encourage runners to try to do both. If you live in Brooklyn, go run Prospect Park. Get really comfortable with Battle Pass Hill. Get really comfortable with the West Side hills you get to run down. Get used to what this feels like so that you're not surprised on race day. I always say, use your home course. You are the home court advantage. Go do it. Get yourself out there. If you live here in Manhattan, you get out to the Greenway, that's pancake flat. That should be where you're thinking about the last part of your race, so you can kind of run up and down this way and find the rhythm, because that's how I like to tell runners, after you're out of the park, it's just, okay, I got to get myself to what mile marker before I can do my race. And as a coach, we just say around mile 9 or 10 is like the halfway point of your half marathon. And do you have a 5K race to pick it up? So that's one way you can kind of approach this race course, because kind of get yourself through the first part, in control, hit Ocean Parkway, fuel up. At mile 7 is going to be where the Science and Sport Gel Zone will be, so you'll kind of know where to take it. We have our pace teams will be out there as well, so you'll be able to work with our pace teams, and they'll tell you where things are. But I really can't stress enough on race day how important it's going to be to stay on top of your hydration, because if we do have a sunny day, Ocean Parkway there's no shade. You will just be exposed, and I don't want anybody to get concerned or scared or freaked out. Just that's the reality. So if you have a moment to maybe do some of your training when it's a bit warmer in the day, that can be helpful as well, because then you'll figure out how much you're sweating, how much, again, going back to your hydration you want, what you're going to wear. It all ties into itself. So it's the kind of things that you want to take in through there. Was there any part of the question that I'm missing? I think it may be something else.
I don't believe so. I think if they do all that, then they'll be successful on race day, right?
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
If not, I did not do my job.
And if you have more questions about the course, as Coach Ben mentioned, Coach Ben and Coach Steve will be at the pre-party before the Brooklyn Half. And yes, we have a party before the half marathon if you're not familiar with that. So moving on to Atia, we talked about the fact that we don't know 5 weeks out what the weather is going to be like. But we also talked about the fact that there's nothing new on race day. So given that, what should runners be looking for now to prepare in terms of gear? So shirts, shorts, shoes. Folks may not have considered arm warmers or hats or socks. Is that something they should think about?
Yes, and one thing that I forgot to mention, sunscreen. Please. This is something that I think it's going to be cloudy, or I should be okay. I usually don't wear it. Please don't make that mistake. And I would say, again, you have 5 weeks. Go try some products you like. Go to Sephora, get a sample. You got options. Don't forget sunscreen. Another thing you want to consider is the shoes that you're already going to be wearing. Here's the key to not switching the shoes, right? If you have been wearing a shoe and you love it, it's what you like, it's a shoe that you know you're going to wear on race day. It's not that big of a deal to stick with that shoe if you want to get a new version of that shoe a few weeks out. So you got 2 weeks to get a new pair of the shoe that you know that works. Don't try to buy the newest model that came out the week before race day because it's the color that you like. The laces look better than the last version. Please, you don't want to do that. Socks, we talked about socks, so make sure that you're getting moisture-wicking socks, whether they're going to be merino wool or they're going to be another synthetic fiber that's going to be great for anti-stink, funk, all of that good stuff. For real. Compression gear, right? So some people like to run with compression gear, some people don't. Remember, this is your time to experience that now. If you don't end up wearing it on race day and you wish you did, now you learned a lesson. Let's see, I got one more last thing. We did arm warmers, we got our light hat, we have visors, we got socks, gloves, what are we missing? I think we got everything almost, right? Make sure you double knot your laces. Okay, yeah, that was a good one, right?
Write that down, yeah.
That's another one. Make sure you tie your shoes really good. I think we got everything for gear.
And
yeah.
I think, I'm not sure if we mentioned this or folks might be familiar, but a lot of people will dress in layers,
Yes.
and they will discard some of the layers at the beginning.
At the start.
Yes.
And those items get donated. So please don't buy like a $500 jacket
Go
or
to
something.
the Goodwill. Support the Goodwill and then give it back.
You can keep it with you if you can keep it on you.
Yeah.
Like as Atia, I think,
Yes.
mentioned earlier, if you can roll it up or if you can tie it.
Yes. There's a lot of packable options out there. There's also a ton of running shorts or running tights that have a little loop in the back of the pant. You can literally just tie that shirt or that packable jacket behind you on there. Yeah, there's a bunch of options. Oh, your water option, your hydration option. Is this a race where they can wear a vest? No.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, it is. So
Yeah, but it's over the shoulder. Bottles must be in front, nothing in the back. You can't have like the bladders in the back with the straws. You can have the bottles in front, no water in the reservoirs in the back, but you can have over the shoulder is fine now.
There you go. That's another thing. And it could also be handheld as well.
100%.
Oh, that's great.
Practice that now. Thank you, everyone. So I'm just going to move into my last quick, brief question. We will move into audience questions in just about a minute. If you have any questions, get those ready. Coach Steve is monitoring the questions on the live stream. So really quickly, last bits of advice for this section, obviously, but Coach Ben, any last bits of advice from a coaching perspective for the runners?
I mean, just have fun. Seriously, you've worked hard to get to a start line. Why not enjoy everything you do? You don't, whatever the race is what the race is going to be. You've done everything you can do to get yourself there. Enjoy your day. You end at Coney Island. You end at the beach. People take their shoes off on the sand into the ocean. Enjoy what you're going into, whether it's food afterward. You have all the hot dogs, the pizza, the beer. Enjoy the moment. This is your time. The race is yours. All the work you've done, take it in and please enjoy it.
Please prepare and then enjoy it. Atia, from a gear perspective?
Last final things. I would say lay your outfit out the night before. Make sure you have everything that you need laid out. If you need to label things, label it. Again, like she said, nutrition-wise, if you need to label with time, make sure you have everything that you need prepared. Have fun. Again, of course, we're going to always say have fun. But another thing is don't be too hard on yourself, right? If this is your first time, please just remember, like, you're not going to be a professional at anything that you try the first time, right? So the first time, right? So enjoy it, make the best out of it, take notes for next time, but don't be hard on yourself. Be easy. And yeah, explore more gear after this race too. So then you know what you like.
Awesome. And Amy, from the nutrition side.
Okay, I'll wrap it up quickly. So I covered a lot of stuff. I would say the most important thing is just fuel early and often. When you get to that start line, it's like you forget everything you just did. So fuel early and often. Stick with your plan. Set a timer on your watch if you know how to do that. Write it on your arm. What time do you need to take your gels or the miles? Just have your plan and stick with it. And I really, lay out that food in the morning too, and know exactly what time you're taking things. You don't want to get to the start line saying, I should have eaten this an hour ago. You don't want to do that. So stick with your plan. Whatever has worked on these long runs. Fuel early and often.
Awesome. So have a plan, stick with your plan, don't be too hard on yourself, and have fun. Great. So let's move into the audience Q&A. Do we have any folks? Oh, we have a hand up right away.
I got the mic for you. Hang on. In the mic. And I'll say your name, too.
Hi, my name is Colleen, and I have a question for Coach Ben. When do you suggest the longest training run take place, and what do you recommend for a taper?
Yeah, usually I like a 2 weeks out from your race for half marathon will be your longest training run. So in this case, it's going to be May the 4th, be with you. That's going to be, sorry folks, had to drop the joke. Apologize, I'm the worst. Dad jokes all the way. That will be my recommendation, should be that's long. And then whatever it is whatever your training plan has built you to get to whatever that long run is going to be. And then in your taper itself, that'll be 2 weeks out. So you begin to bring down your volume. So just kind of decrease your volume from what your max was, probably bring it down 30 or 40% the first week. And then the second week, maybe 60% or 70% from what your peak was. I would say your long run on that weekend in between your long run and the race will be about probably half of what you did the week before. But in terms of, the work is done. We say the hay is in the barn at that point. You're not going to really do anything that's going to gain much fitness in those last 2 weeks. You really want to give yourself time to recover and repair the work that you've done and prepare yourself to get to the start line ready to rock and roll.
Awesome. Thank you. I think there's a question right there in the back.
Same question they have.
Okay, awesome.
Over here,
Right
though.
there.
We'll go over here and then toss it to you.
Hi, I'm Devasha. You didn't mention electrolytes in your water. What do you think about that?
I saw that I didn't mention that. Okay. Electrolytes, super important, especially as the temperatures increase. The more you sweat, the more electrolytes you're going to need to replace the fluids. So electrolytes, sodium, potassium, calcium, chloride, and magnesium. So those are the main ones that you want to be replacing. And there's so many different products out there. There's pills, there's drinks, there's some in gels. I think the best way to gauge the electrolytes is, I mean, I give a starting point, like 300 milligrams of sodium in the first hour. And so you find a product that has that amount and you test that and you see how your body feels. Electrolytes are helpful because they tell your body to hold on to the water. If you're drinking tons of fluids, but you're not taking electrolytes with it, you're not going to be holding on to that water. When you sweat, the electrolytes go out on your skin. So you're replacing something that you've already lost. You're not taking an excess, you're replacing. And just to give you some perspective, like a bag of chips might have like 200 milligrams of sodium, or even more than that. I'm thinking of a small bag. So electrolytes are in our foods, so you can get that throughout the day. Do you need to be drinking noon all day? Not really. I mean, unless you're sweating while you're in your office. But you do need to replace it after the run. There is definitely a benefit, and you have to see how you feel. You might need more than that. You may not need so much. I know runners that don't use any, and they're fine. Some that use way more than that.
Great, thank you. This question right there.
Hi, first of all, thank you for doing this. My name is Karidi. I have two questions. One for tapering and then building up to your peak, which is 2 weeks out. How much of an increase would you recommend on a week-to-week basis before you get to that 2 weeks out mark from like a safety standpoint?
I mean, it depends on where you're starting from. If it's your first and you're starting from zero, then you need to be very mindful of your build and the volume because your body is adapting to the new stresses that you're adding to it. So there's not really like a set way to do it. It depends on where you are. Is it your first time?
Second time.
The second time. So what was your peak the first time around, or how did you build up the first go around?
First time, my peak was 10 miles 2 weekends before the half.
And how did that feel? I mean, were you able to sustain the 10 miles through, and then how did the race day feel from that?
Yeah, it felt pretty good during training and during race day. Maybe the last mile or two felt like really strenuous, but not too bad, all things considered.
Yeah, and that's part of that's the race. Is your body is going through like, why am I still here? When is this going to end? Hopefully soon. Please call me an Uber, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So again, I mean, I'm more of a per minute. I run by minutes as opposed to miles because I prefer to be on my feet. Because if I tell someone to go, hey, you have to go do 10 miles, that may take somebody 2 hours. It may take somebody an hour and a half, take 2.5 hours or 3 hours. So I say, hey, if you can go for like 120 minutes, then whatever you're going to get in that day is what you're going to get in, but you're always going to get the physical benefits of the time on your feet, and you're building your endurance. In regards if you get in 8, 10, 12 miles, in that 120, you're still building, and you're also making sure that you're not overstressing or overstraining your body. Because again, injury, the line between fitness and injury is razor thin, and you find out when you cross it, and you're like, oh, darn it, I shouldn't have gone that hard or gone that far. So I tell people, when you're building up, a rule of thumb is safe is about 10% build per week as you go through, but you also will have down weeks. So maybe you'll go up 2 weeks or up 3 weeks and you'll come down, up 2 or 3 weeks and then come back down. And then you're timing that out to hit that peak at your about 2 weeks out, and then you'll come back down for race day. That's a good rule of thumb to do that. Usually over a 10-week plan, you probably have a 2 up, one down kind of roll, and then you'll peak out, ready to rock and roll.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Second question is around nutrition. Thoughts on fruits as a pre-race snack?
As a pre-race snack?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. So you just want to make sure that food is clearing your body. You don't want it sitting in your intestines, because when you are running and you're running at, especially the beginning of a race, you're going to be pushing pretty hard. Everyone's going out really fast. You're running hard. So all the blood flow in your body is going away from your gut, and it's going to your muscles, and it's going to your heart to get things moving. So if whatever's left in your gut is not getting digested, it's going to give you stomach ache and cramping. So fruit is great, just not only fruit. I mean, you may want to have a little protein with that, but maybe make it around an hour before with some protein. Plenty of time to digest. If you need a little more snack, there's other things you can do in smaller quantities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions online, Coach Steve?
Yeah, we got a really good one online. Then we'll come back to the live questions because I know there's a lot of good ones. So we had a question from Ruth. I usually train in the afternoon, evening. Can that routine affect my efficiency on the race just because in the morning my body is not used to running at that time? So maybe a two-parter. Coach Ben, talk about training and race in the morning, and maybe a nutrition standpoint as well. How do you adapt to that kind of change of time and day?
Yeah. I mean, we have a group training group. They're outside running right now at night. They prefer to run in the evening. So it's really what a preference comes down to, and you're just going to have to get ready. I mean, I think when Amy talks about the nutrition, you may have to adapt some different things on when you eat and how you eat and whatnot. But in terms of like, will it hurt you? I think because this race is so unpredictable from a weather perspective, it may actually benefit you because being out there in the afternoon or early evening is the warmer part of the day. So you may encounter that potentially on race day. But yeah, I mean, people just getting your training in when you get it in is when you have to do it, whatever you prefer to, but you all know your race is going to be like. So I would encourage people, if you can, try to mimic your routine, because then it becomes known and you get to lay down the puzzle pieces on what's working and what's not working. Okay, I get up at this time, I eat this, I go out and run. Try to emulate that if you can, but if you run in the afternoon, just be mindful of when you're eating in a similar pattern or a similar time frame so that you can kind of mimic that when you shift back a few hours.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It's just, if you can, try, a lot of people run after work, but if your race is in the morning, practice it. See if you, maybe on a weekend, just practice some runs, go through a dress rehearsal, have that pre-run food and see how that feels on your body. Your body will adapt over time, so it will get used to eating. The other thing you can try is, if you're always running in the evening and then your race is super early in the morning, have a bigger dinner and have a snack at night, and then have a small snack as early as you can get up, and see if that works for you. Because the goal of that is to top off your glycogen stores. You really just want to get those topped off. When you start, you have a full tank. You don't want to start with a half a tank. And you lose glycogen even through the night sleeping. So you can wake up and you're 3/4 filled. You want to top that off. So if you even get in crackers or pretzels or non-traditional breakfast foods, maybe it's like, I don't know, whatever, toast with honey. Maybe that seems more appealing to you if you're not a morning, riser and eater. So.
Thank you. And I think we have a question
Over here, yeah.
from the audience here.
All right.
Hi. Thank you all so much. My name is Zoe. A few quick questions. I'll just get them all out and then you can take them in whatever order. But for nutrition, I'm wondering if we're eating something like 2 hours beforehand and then we have to commute and then we get to the starting line, would you recommend taking a gel or maybe like the gummy gels right before the start or something like very close to the start of the race? And then my other nutrition question is, when we're finished, do you recommend like our post-run meal being more protein heavy or more carb heavy? And then the gear question is, can you talk to us about chafing and how to deal with that, and if a fancy product is good or we can just like use Vaseline or something? Ooh. No. Ooh. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I have to remember all these. Okay.
Sorry.
Wait, so
gel before?
Gel before.
Yeah.
Okay, so practice it. If you want to do a gel before, you can absolutely do that. A lot of people have those gels like 5 to 10 minutes before they start. Totally fine. You could do that. But you have to practice that. And you need water depending on which gel you use. So if you have, like the Science and Sport, you don't need to have water with this one because it's got hydration in it. It has hydration. So that would be totally fine if you have that, or maybe if you want half of it. You don't have to have the whole thing. Maybe you do half, and that's enough for you. You don't have to force it down. So yes, you can absolutely do that. Not a problem. On the other nutrition question, afterwards, recovery foods. So when you recover from a workout, your body is primed to absorb nutrients. When you stress those muscles, they break down and you deplete your glycogen. However, when you are going into a resting state and you're done running, your body is like really ready to absorb every nutrient available. So some protein and carbohydrate are really important at that time. So I would say like mostly carbohydrate with some protein. 4-to-1 ratio, carb to protein, or you could do like a 3-to-1 ratio. I'm just throwing those numbers out. Some people like to hear that. But toast with eggs is great. Or like a burger, not a burger, but like I'm thinking what's going to be available over there. Or you bring food with you if you're a hot dog. I mean, you could do a hot dog if that's what you want. Go for it. You could do a hot dog. I bring a picnic. My friends and I bring a picnic, and we sit on the beach, and we all bring food, and we have that.
Thank you.
The beach will be filled this year with picnic folks. Atia, about the gear.
Oh my gosh. I'm only saying don't have a hot dog because I don't eat meat, okay? Sorry. So we said chafing, right? So have you heard of Body Glide? Have you used it? Gotcha. Okay. I would say definitely go. They even sell them on the market right now, like the little tiny small ones, just so you can try it. Start now, putting it in the areas that feel a little uncomfortable. Another suggestion is if you notice in the areas that you're feeling like you're getting a little bit of abrasion, maybe start to now try a different option for fabric on that layering option, right? So if you're getting maybe something a little bit underneath the arms, maybe it's because the tank is not agreeing with you after a certain amount of miles. Find something that's a little bit lighter, maybe something that doesn't have too much elastane in there that's going to be squeezing on the body. So it really is going to be a matter of playing with the items that is good that in that area. So, but please try to body glide. That typically is number one. Yeah, for sure.
And Vaseline's usually available at the medical tents.
Yeah.
Vaseline is usually
In
available.
a pinch, Vaseline. It works.
Just an FYI.
Aquaphor.
I think we're taking maybe a
We have
couple of
maybe
more questions.
2 or 3 more questions. I think we have one over here.
Okay.
What would be a good recovery workout or exercise after running a half marathon, and for how long would you recommend?
Sitting on the couch and forever how long you like.
'Cause
That's my prime recovery workout is me and my couch. No, I'm kidding, but not really. No, I mean, I look at it from the perspective of like we look at it as a coach, you want to, your recovery takes a day per mile raced. Okay, so if you do a 13-mile race, you give yourself about 2 weeks of full recovery. Really the first 2 or 3 days after a half marathon, you're doing nothing but celebrating you and doing what you need to do because you've worked hard, your muscles have worked hard, you've damaged the muscle in your work, so you want to give your body time to recover. Just sit down and enjoy it. When you get back out there, maybe a 20-minute run, a 30-minute run. It could be less. Your body could tell you something different. Your body, I tell runners, when you're running and your body doesn't feel good, it's telling you something. Just are you willing to listen to what it's trying to tell you? So really keep that in mind. It may take you longer to recover. You may need 3 weeks to recover. You may need a little bit less. People for first timers, be kind to yourself when you're done. Give yourself time. Maybe you have something else down the road you're training for. Just give yourself a moment to recover. So the race is the 18th, probably through Memorial Day. Just chill, relax, have a good
Like
time.
immediately after the race is over, should you do some stretching for like 5-10 minutes?
Yeah,
Or you,
yeah, you can. I mean, you know, at that moment, if you're feeling something, like we have the walk-off. The walk-off is part of your recovery. The minute you cross that finish line, recovery will start. Part of the walk-off is lowering your body, your heart rate as you become that. Yeah, stretching a little bit could feel very good. Yeah, nice deep stretch. Hospital for special surgery will have a recovery zone at the end. You can go on the foam rollers back there. They'll have massage tables if you can get out there. There is a line sometimes. People in wave 2, there's a bit of a line to wait. Yeah, if you have a foam roller at home, that's your best friend. If you have a Theragun, just make it very, very easy. Don't go too hard, especially if something hurts. But yeah, just, you know, enjoy your moment in the sun. Hopefully there will be sun out there. So, and not a hot dog.
I'm getting hungry, by the way, at this chat.
Hi, I deal with shin splints on occasion, and I've been trying to avoid having flare-ups, and I specifically want to avoid it, you know, in the coming weeks before the marathon. So I was just wondering if you guys had any tips in training to just try to avoid or reduce shin splints.
That's always a fun one because I mean it's your body. I mean it's an overstress, it's an overuse that's telling you something. So it's really part of the calf in the front. So doing like heel drops, doing stretches. I mean it's one of those things your body's telling you something and you want to listen to that. So just be mindful. You know, I like to do like, you know, there's different, like you can do heel drops or you can do like your foot up against the wall and kind of press down because you want to stretch it out a little bit. But it's really trying to strengthen the muscles around that can be very helpful. It's hard to like diagnose one thing because it's kind of it's pain in more ways than one as you found out. I mean, there's some shoe options I think sometimes also. So maybe
I was gonna ask, what kind of shoes are you wearing? But
I wear the Clifton Hokas.
okay.
They're
I see
not
what you
New
did
Balance.
there. I see what you did there. I would. No shade, right? No shade.
No, you can't.
Definitely want to do some exercise, right? So definitely rolling out those ankles. Definitely do what he said, but also maybe you want to try a different shoe option now, like for real, like maybe this weekend if you have the time to go. It could be the drop. It could be a couple of different things with the shoe. I would say a great idea is to go to a location that allows you to try shoes for longer than a week or a couple days. Try out some models. You could even go for a loop around the neighborhood, in the mall, wherever you're going to be. Feel how you feel, but do it soon, right? Because I'm not saying that that's a bad shoe. But what I'm saying is there's other options that might be a little bit better for you. And if you haven't gotten a perfect fit, got it measured on the pad, you stand on there, please do that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think, Coach C, we have one more
Some
maybe.
shade
question right
actually
there.
dropped there. I loved it.
Funny enough, I wear the New Balance and the Hoka Cliftons, so I do both.
Got some friends.
No, it's actually my first time running the half marathon, and I just finished the 10 miles. So I just want to understand what sort of training should I do leading up to the half marathon. So I know like 3 weeks on May 4th. So how much should I push myself until that point? And then the question on nutrition was, what do you recommend in terms of caffeine? Like I know there are many drinks out there like Celsius or Gatorade that have 200 mg, but is that a good amount? Is that recommended or is that too high? And how should we manage that before we run in the morning?
Are you following a training plan or working with somebody, or are you just kind of doing your own thing?
I'm just doing my own thing, to be honest.
Okay. And you're already up to 10 miles already?
Yes, I already finished 10 miles, yeah.
Okay. And how'd that feel?
I did it much slower than I usually do my other 10Ks, so that's why I was able to sustain that. But then at the pace that I would want to do it at, I would think I would be able to do it at that.
And that's what you're doing. Like your training is not, you're not racing right now. You're training. So those long runs should be slower, probably a good 30 to 40 seconds, maybe even up to a minute slower than what you want to do on race day, because what you're trying to do with the body adaptation is using different fuel systems to get yourself there. So you're building your endurance base. And then the idea is if you're doing speed work during the week, those are the quality workouts that you're going for. That's 1 day a week or twice a week coupled up with that. So if you're not working with a training plan at this point, I would say just keep, you want to work where you can make the biggest gains. And you've made some great gains in your endurance already. If you're at 10 miles already, you'll probably, I would guess, you'll get close to 12, maybe even 13 potentially in your peak time frame. But I would just also watch your overall volume load. That means the total number of miles in the week that you're racing, because that does play a factor as well. If you're building too quickly, you're adding too many miles too quickly, that's where injury. I don't care what the footwear is or what you're eating. That's where things can go sideways. So I would just give yourself breaks also. Like if you did 10 last week and maybe come down this week, maybe bring it down a little bit and take it easy. And then maybe towards the end, you're like 2 weeks out through 3 weeks out, maybe in your long runs, add some at pace miles. That way it'll kind of give you back, okay, good. Okay, I did, I did a 10-mile run and I did a mile at the end at what I want to do on race day. Yeah, it was hard, but I can see I can do that. It's also a good mental prep for what you're going to try to do in a couple weeks' time.
So the caffeine, it's funny, I was just writing up an Instagram post and I was sending it to my NYU track team, all on caffeine. So I have a lot of information. I'll just give you the summary. So caffeine can be a really great performance enhancement. And it helps reduce the perceived exertion. You don't feel like you're working as hard. I mean, you're still working, but it doesn't feel as strenuous. The dose is 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. If you go more than that, there is no additional benefit. I think even 3 milligrams, a lot of places or a lot of studies I've read, it's supportive. And you have to just kind of see what that feels like. For most people, that's around 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. A tall Starbucks is around 250. Celsius is 200. Trying to think of the other common products. A pre-workout, I don't know if you've ever done that, that's 175 for a scoop. And so, I mean, you just don't want to have anything that has calories. If you're using that for performance, if you take that right before, an hour before, that's that's more carbohydrate then, or it could be fat. One of the guys was using a latte, like some kind of canned latte, and we looked at the label and it has a lot of fat in it, and that's going to take longer to leave your stomach. So you're going to start your race and now you have all this fat in your body. And like we said, you don't want to have that come start of the race. So 200 to 400 milligrams, and I think I gave you lots of ideas on that. There's also another product that I just saw, Seattle Gummy. I thought this was really interesting. There's no carb in it. It's like very little, like 10 calories. Seattle Gummy, 2 gummies in a pack, I believe is 200 milligrams. So that's and you want it around 1 hour before you start. So that's like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. is really the time you want it. But you could also just use your tea or coffee, at home. You don't really need to make any major adjustments to that. But those are just some options. I think I covered that.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. And I believe we are actually, we're a few minutes over. We wanted to get some more questions in. Thank you so very much to our panelists, Amy, Atia, and Coach Ben. And thank you to all of you for being here in person and those on the live stream, those watching this recording at a later time. The race, again, is on May 18th, about 5 weeks out. So don't forget, mark your calendars. Mark the calendars of your family and friends as well, so they can come out and cheer for you. And this is a two-part series. So this is the first training panel, and then the second one will be on May 9th, about 9 days out. We do cover slightly different aspects of the race related to that. So especially if you're a first-time runner, please come and join us in person or online. Want to thank, again, our panelists. Want to thank Coach Steve as well, and AJ, who's making sure this live stream is going well, and the recording. Want to thank our colleagues here at the New York Roadrunners Run Center, and all of you for deciding to sign up to run this race. You're going to do great. We'll see you hopefully on May 9th. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.